So I'm going to start now by putting these pieces back together. There's 28, 29 pieces that have been removed, a couple of large caps and little ones, and then all of the small axial and radial caps, and of course the LM 1875. So the next step is really just to be organized, because you don't want to be putting the wrong component in the wrong place, and or getting the polarity wrong with capacitors, which is really important. So you can see on here, if I zoom in, you can see there's a indication of polarity, plus and minus. Even on the small ones, you can see the plus and the minus. So as I said, it's important to get the polarity right. On these axial capacitors, you'll see there's a stripe on one leg. On the side, that means that's the negative leg, that's the positive leg. And obviously on the board you go and match up, so you put it in so that the positive leg, let's say it was in here, you put the side with the stripe on the negative leg, and the side that does not have the stripe on the positive leg. And that's simply all you'd have to do. On the bigger, these ones, you can see they've actually got markings on them to say what's positive and what's negative. On other types, you've got little arrows which point towards the negative leg, like this one. There's a little arrow saying this is the negative leg. Those are the main types that you really need to think about. On these small radial capacitors, you can see the leg, that leg here. Often you find that that's the easiest way. If you're not sure, look it up. There's plenty of resources for it. So I thought I'd show you this example as well. This is another axial cap, just to determine the polarity. Here there's little arrows pointing with the negative sign, so this is the negative lead. So this one is going into, this one's going into C3, but I just thought it was just slightly different from the banded versions. So I thought I'd show you that as well before I put it in. And so I've done a couple already. This is going in to C3, which is up here. So you can see, let me just show you exactly what I've done. So there's C3, there's the positive. I go and find where the arrows are. See that that's the negative lead. Hold on to the negative lead, having a look. Okay, so now I'm confident that I've got it the right way around. Put the positive in the positive side, and then just bend it over. And putting the negative on the other side. Getting that down, and then once I've got it in place, bend the leads out the back so that you can see that the component stays in place. So just bend the leads out like that. So I've gradually gone and put in a lot of the caps around the board, as you can see, just bending the wires on the back, making sure I've got the polarity right, checking the polarity on the boards, and double checking that against the polarity on the manual printout that I have. So the one piece that does not have polarity concerns, or the way that it's not polarized, in other words, it doesn't matter which leg you put in, is the ceramic capacitor, which goes into C23, so it doesn't really matter which way you pop that in. So just in that goes. Again, just slotting that in, driving it through down to the bottom. Turning it over, and then just pushing the leads so that the component stays in the board. So slowly but surely put all these in. I've got the big caps to put in, the amp, the LM1875 chip or transistor with the thermal cement onto the heatsink. And once I've got all the pieces in, there's a variety of little tantalum caps. I'm just doing a bit of research on the polarity of those. The tapered end on this indicates the positive lead, and the sharp end on this indicates the negative lead, based on the data sheet that I've downloaded. So you can see there's a slight taper here, that's the positive lead. So anode, cathode. But when I look on the board, there's no indication of polarity at all, unlike the other, all of the other capacitor positions. So if you look over here, there's clear polarity where the positive lead versus the negative lead goes. On these, which have indicated that they need to be polarized according to the data sheet, but clearly there is no polarity indicated on there. On the board itself, I've zoomed quite tightly in here so you can see it, and the same is true here. There's no polarity indicated. So I'm doing a bit of research to see what is the right way to put these components in first. I suspect I might need to get out the schematics and see how we go before I put those in. And then once I put those last pieces in, it's just a matter of soldering all the leads in, and then we can test it. So I'm going to go and do a bit of research and I'll be back. I've got the schematics out and I'll pop this on, but effectively what I'm going to be doing is looking at, okay, this one here says that the anode, the positive end, goes to ground. This one here, the negative end goes to ground. I've put on the little picture that I've got a description of what a capacitor, this capacitor symbol looks like, and you can see that the negative end is the bent end and the positive is the flat end. So the round end is the cathode and the anode is the positive side, the anode on the top side there. So I'm going to go through, find out. Now some of them, a lot of them go to ground, and some of them go to specific components. I'm going to start with the ones that go to ground. So I've attached the multimeter to the ground on the back of the board, and then I've got the board on the multimeter on continuity. And if I touch one of the sides of the board that I know is grounded, it obviously forms continuity. So now I'm going to have a look through here, and I'll have done all this work for you. So let's take C47 first. The positive side needs to go to ground, and C23, the negative side, needs to go to ground. And then what I have is I have this chart, and you can see that I've done the work already, but I'm just going to show you how to do it, where I've marked the positive with a small cross, and I'll put this on the site as well as in the YouTube video in a minute that you can screenshot it. But you can see that I've done this. So in that example where we're looking at C47, the example we're looking at where the positive goes to ground, C47, I'm going to go and find the left lead of C47, and I should get continuity if I'm correct. So there we go. I'm holding on that one there, and you can see I'm getting continuity. If I go to C46, the negative goes to ground. and my little chart says that the negative is on the left. So if I touch the right hand hole, it should do nothing. If I touch the left hand hole, I get continuity. So that's how I've gone through and identified which of the points on the board is going to ground or not, looking on the schematic, and then I've then gone and marked it on this picture, and you can see where the polarity is. So that should save a lot of time because again, it's not marked on the board or not. And then it's a matter of getting the right capacitor and putting it in the right way around based on that picture. So I'm going to do that now, and then I can get into soldering. So I'm going to show you how to do the first one. So I'm going to do C21, and I've got my 10 microfarad. You can see my 10 microfarad capacitor, and I can see that it says based on C21 is the 10 microfarad 10 volt. I'm going to orientate it so that it's got the positive side, the anode, on the left, because that's what it says on the board. Here is C21 down here. I've got it set up like that. I'm literally going to put it in with the slightly cone shaped going towards the left, and it's as simple as that really. The work is really done in reading the schematics. So that's in like that for C21, and I'll bend the legs out at the back and then solder that in place, and I do the rest. So I've got all the components in now. I haven't soldered them yet, so that's the next step. So I've got all the components in except for the two large capacitors here and the LM1875. So I'm going to put all the smaller capacitors in so long. So I've got those all in. I'm going to now start soldering these. And I have got my extractor fan ready because it's quite a lot of soldering. So I'm going to turn that on. It's a bit noisy. Here you can see that the two caps that I need to put in. So I'm going to go off and do that, and we'll see how we go from there. Okay, so those are all soldered in now. Cut all the leads off, and now all I have to do is these two caps, but first I'll put the mini LM1875 amp in with the compound thermal cement. So that's this, simply goes in there. So this one is a little tricky, so that just slips nicely in there. Just put a screwdriver through there to get the height right. Flip it over and then solder. So this is now soldered in. I've got the thermal cement in there just behind it, and the bolt is going straight through to connect this with the heat sink and making a good contact. And then let's use a screwdriver here. want to make sure that that bolt is really quite tight. Okay, that's really tight. And then what I'm going to do is just get a little earbud dipped in a little bit of alcohol. Just an earbud with a bit of alcohol on it. I'll just try and clean up the excess. That's now clean, and that's good to go. All I need to do now is get these two caps in, and we can see if it's all good. So again, negative leg, positive leg, in it goes. These are a bit trickier. I find it's quite useful just to rest it on a cloth while you're doing this, because you generally need an extra hand. Yeah. So that's done. All of the caps have been replaced, the big ones are in. I've also cleaned the back of the board with just some basic circuit board cleaner to get rid of all the excess flux. But you know, I'm pretty happy with it. There's one or two solders that were a little bit tricky, like this one down here where solder didn't take very much, a bit of oxidization there, but by and large pretty happy. I'm going to put it in and see how we go.